In this video, we're going to learn how to graph using Excel. So let's look at the data that we would like to graph. This data table right here shows the volume of a gas as it changes with the pressure of a gas. The volume is in meter cube and the pressure is in Pascal. So if you want to plot this data, the first thing we want to do is to select the data and open up a document or a blank workbook in Excel. And let's copy and paste the data. So here's the volume in meter cube and here is the pressure in pascals. So remember to always make the first column your x-axis and the second column your y-axis. So if you want to change the axis, then you have to rewrite the columns accordingly. So select the data and go to Insert and choose the scatter plot. So you automatically have the plot that is done for you right here. We always want to title the graph. So click on the title, and a useful title for any graph would always be the y variable versus the x variable. So I want to say pressure versus volume of a gas. And a graph is meaningless if the axes are not labeled. So click on this plus sign and you can go to chart elements. Select axis titles, and so you have the axis titles appear on the graph. And if you want to attach data labels to each data point, you may check this, so it will attach the labels to each data point. So for now, let's leave it like that. So on the x-axis, I want to label this as my volume in meter cube, and on the y-axis I want to label that as my pressure in pascals. So you have the graph here and looks like this is not a straight line. This looks like as volume increases, the pressure decreases. So that means there is a possibility that these two are inversely proportional to each other. So how do we verify that pressure is actually inversely proportional to volume? So we know that if pressure is inversely proportional to volume, then we can plot it in such a way that we get a straight line graph so that we can verify this inverse proportion. So how do we choose the variables and plot it in such a way so that we get a linear graph? So if P is proportional to 1 over V, if P is inversely proportional to V, then we can write P is directly proportional to the reciprocal of the volume. So if I plot a graph between P and 1 over V, then I could get a straight line. So what we want to do is to go back to Excel and we want to plot pressure and 1 over volume. So let me take the volume column again, copy and paste it here, and I want to calculate 1 over V, the reciprocal of V. So we can do the calculations in Excel. So all I do is, so if I want to write a formula, start with an equal to sign, and then I wanted to do 1 divided by the value in this column. Click enter and it calculates 1 over V for you. And we want to do that for all the columns. So just pull the bar down and you will see that Excel already calculated the reciprocal values for you. And now copy the pressure into the next column. And now we want to graph 1 over V and pressure. So select these two columns. Go back to Insert, Scatter Plot, and we have that again. So let's move this graph over. We don't need this anymore, so let's take that away. So here we have the plot. Notice that this looks like a straight line. So we want to see if this is really a straight line. So let's go back and change the chart title. So we're going to write this as P versus 1 over V. And we want to select the chart, click on this plus sign and choose axis titles. We'll go back and label the axis, but meanwhile we want to draw a best fit line, the trend line for this data. So select trend line and you can click on, and we want a linear trend because it looks like a straight line, so select linear. And here is your trend line that is already drawn. Okay, and we also want to do something else, so you can click on the trend line and then click on more options, and you will find that you have a lot more options here, wherein you can display the equation of the trend line and then they display the R-squared value as well. So this right here is your equation of the straight line. And your R-squared value turns out to be 1, which means that there is perfect linear relationship between these two pieces of data. So the closer the R-squared value to 1 is, the better fit the straight line is to your data. And this here represents the equation of your straight line. Since your straight line passes through the origin, there is no intercept, so it's in the form of y equals mx. So the m, the slope here, is going to be equal to 4. Okay. So this is how you can take the data and plot a linear graph, and you can find the mathematical relationship between the variables by just using Excel. So if you go back and let's label the axis. This is now 1 over V, and it's going to be in meter -3, and this is going to be our pressure in pascals. So our equation, which is y equals 4x, can be rewritten as, in terms of these variables, you can rewrite it as P equals 4 times 1 over V. That will be the equation that defines the mathematical relationship between these two variables.